My dad always swore that the photo didn't exist. He said I made it up, that I was confused, that I imagined things like I always do. He said it so many times, I almost believed him. Almost. But the truth doesn't disappear. Just because someone insists on rewriting it, and the night I finally found that photo buried deep in an old folder on an ancient hard drive, everything inside me froze. There he was, standing exactly where he said he had never been, with the person he promised he hadn't seen in years. And he wasn't just there, he looked happy. Too happy. The kind of happy that makes your stomach drop when you're the one kept in the dark. I stared at the picture for a long time, feeling the weight of every gaslit argument settle on my chest. Then, I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I sent it to him. No message. No explanation. Just the photo he swore could never exist. And within 1 minute, he started calling me stop. Within 2 minutes, he showed up at my door. And within 5 minutes, my entire childhood began to feel like a lie. The moment he stepped inside, I knew he wasn't here to talk, he was here to control the narrative, just like he always did. He didn't ask how I found the photo. He didn't even pretend to be confused. Instead, he launched straight into excuses, talking fast, pacing the room, trying to twist the situation before I could even process my own thoughts. He kept saying it was complicated, that I didn't understand, that the picture meant nothing. But if it meant nothing, why did he look terrified? Growing up, my dad controlled every version of every story. He decided what happened, what didn't, what I saw, what I didn't. Anytime I questioned him, he dismissed me as dramatic or forgetful. He taught me to doubt my own memory, but that photo was undeniable proof that he'd been lying for years. And the more he talked, the more I realized he wasn't scared of me knowing the truth. He was scared of losing his power over it. I finally told him to sit down. For once, he listened. And if you like stories where the truth finally comes out, consider subscribing. It helps us bring more real stories like this to the channel. When he finally sat down, it wasn't because he wanted to. It was because, for the first time in my life, he didn't know what else to do. My dad has always been a man of answers, loud ones, sharp ones. Answers delivered with the kind of confidence that makes you question your own memory before you question him. But that night, the confidence was gone. His hands were shaking. He kept glancing at the phone on the table like he expected it to ring with some magical escape route. "Where did you get it?" he asked, his voice low, strained. I didn't answer. I just watched him, studied him. I'd spent so many years being talked over, talked around, talked into circles that made me feel like I was losing my grip on reality. Tonight, he would talk when I chose to let him. He swallowed, tried again. "That photo. I don't know what you think it means." I finally spoke. "I think it means you lied." He flinched. A small reaction, barely noticeable, but I saw it. And seeing it felt like watching a crack open in a wall I once thought was made of steel. "It was a long time ago," he said. "Things were complicated. You said it didn't exist," I reminded him. "You said I imagined it. You said I made up the entire moment." His jaw tightened. "You were a kid. Kids misremember things." "Not that," I said. "Not her. Not the way you held her hand." He dropped his gaze to the floor, and for several seconds, all I could hear was his breathing, slow, uneven, like he was bracing for impact. I wasn't even sure what part he was trying to hide anymore. The relationship, the lie, or the fact that I had evidence he'd spent years denying. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said finally. "You think that makes it better?" I asked. "You think the lie hurts less, just because you meant well?" He opened his mouth, closed it again, then leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. "You were so young," he said. "You barely understood what was happening back then. I didn't think you'd ever remember." "I remembered everything," I said. "Just not the proof. Not until I found it." He let out a long, shaky breath. "I thought it was gone. I deleted everything. I made sure of it, and there it was." He wasn't sorry, he lied. He was sorry he got caught. "Who is she?" I asked. His eyes darted toward me, wide and defensive. "That doesn't matter. It matters to me." He stood up abruptly, pacing again, rubbing his hands through his hair. "It was a mistake," he said. "A stupid moment. I didn't think it would follow me this long." "But it did," I said. "Because you lied instead of telling the truth." A flicker of anger crossed his face, quick and sharp. "I protected you," he snapped. "You didn't need to know everything that was going on. You were a child. I'm not a child now, but you're acting like one," he muttered. Digging up old wounds, sending pictures in the middle of the night, trying to start a fight. I sent one picture. I said, one picture you said didn't exist. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. He looked at me then with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not guilt, something closer to fear. Do you plan on showing anyone? He asked quietly. Do you plan on sending this to your mother? The question punched the air out of my lungs. I hadn't even thought that far ahead, but he had. Immediately, instinctively, like a man who'd spent years preparing for this exact moment. Why is that your first concern? I asked. Shouldn't you be explaining the picture instead of managing the fallout? He ignored the question. Listen, he said, lowering his voice. Your mother doesn't need to know. It was years ago. It would only hurt her. She deserved the truth, I said. Back then, not now, when it's too late to pretend it didn't happen. He walked toward me slowly, carefully, like he was approaching something fragile. I'm asking you not to show her, he said. I'm asking you to let the past stay buried. I stared at him, stunned. You buried it by lying, I said, not by fixing anything. His eyes hardened. I did what I had to do for this family. No, I said. You did what you had to do for yourself. That was the moment something inside him snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. But the mask he'd worn for my entire life finally slipped. You don't understand what adults go through, he said. You don't understand the choices we have to make. Sometimes hiding something is kinder than telling the truth. Not when the person you're hiding it from is your own family. He shook his head. Your memory of that day is wrong. You think you saw more than you actually did. Gaslighting even now. Even facing proof. Even cornered. The photo is real, I said softly, and you're in it, holding her hand, smiling. He looked away, jaw clenched, and I saw his eyes get wet, not with remorse, but with panic. If your mother sees that picture, he whispered, our family falls apart. Maybe it was already falling apart, I said. Maybe that picture is just the part you couldn't hide anymore. He covered his face with both hands, groaning softly. I can't let this destroy us. And then quietly, desperately, he said the words that finally made everything make sense. I thought she deleted it, he whispered. She told me she deleted it. I froze. The world felt like it tilted. She, I repeated. You mean she kept it to... He staggered back a step, realizing what he had just revealed. I didn't say that, he said quickly. Forget it. But I couldn't forget it. Because suddenly, the truth wasn't just about the photo. It wasn't just about him. It was about her Tuan, the secret they had buried together. And now that the evidence was in my hands, nothing about our family would ever look the same again. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat at the edge of my bed. The glow of the photo still burned into my eyes, even with the phone turned off. The image felt heavier now, heavier than I ever imagined a single picture could be. Because it wasn't just proof of what I remembered, it was proof that my dad wasn't the only one who had been lying. Someone else knew. Someone else kept the truth alive even after he swore it was gone. Someone else decided it should never be seen again. And suddenly, the lie felt bigger than him. Bigger than me. Bigger than our entire family. When the sun finally rose, it didn't bring clarity. It just exposed the tension clinging to every inch of the house. My dad was already downstairs, pacing the kitchen with a cup of coffee he wasn't drinking. He didn't look up when I walked in. He just said, "We need to talk," in that controlled tone he always used when he was trying not to lose control. I sat across from him, waiting. He didn't look at me right away. He just stared out the window like he was preparing a speech for an audience he couldn't see. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and tired. I made mistakes, he said, but I wasn't the only one involved. I stayed quiet. I wanted him to keep talking, to tell the truth without me having to drag it out of him. He rubbed his face with both hands. She kept the photo, he said. She kept it because she wanted leverage, insurance. The air left my lungs, insurance against him. Against what? Against the truth coming out. Or against him leaving, or staying. I swallowed hard, so she lied too. He hesitated. She didn't lie, she just chose not to remember. I shook my head. That's the same thing. He sighed, defeated. It was a messy time. We were fighting a lot. It wasn't about you. It was never supposed to involve you. I felt my nails dig into my palms, but it did involve me. Because you both gaslit me for years. You made me feel crazy for remembering something that actually happened. He finally looked at me then. Really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something dangerously close to regret. We thought we were protecting you. No, I said softly. You were protecting yourselves. The truth hung between us like smoke. Neither of us could breathe through. He shook his head slowly, like he wanted to rewind time, rewrite it, erase the version of himself reflected in that picture. It was one moment, he said. One mistake. I didn't want it to define our family. It wasn't the moment that defined our family, I said. It was the lie. His face tightened. You don't understand how complicated marriage is? Then explain it to me, I said. Explain why you would rather lie to your own child than admit you held another woman's hand. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Instead, he stood up and poured the untouched coffee down the sink. You can't show your mother, he said quietly. She's not strong enough for this. Something in me snapped. Stop deciding what people can handle. Stop deciding what's real and what isn't. You don't get to control that anymore. He looked at me sharply. If she sees that photo, everything falls apart. Maybe it should, I said. His expression, twisted fear, anger, resignation, all tangled together. You think you want the truth, he said. But the truth ruins people. No, I said. Lies ruin people. The truth just shows what was already broken. He didn't speak again. He just walked away, leaving his coffee cup in the sink like a symbol of every unfinished conversation we'd ever had. I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway. Part of me felt powerful, like I finally had control over my own memories. The other part felt sick, because I wasn't just holding proof of his lie anymore. I was holding a weapon, one that could destroy my mother, one that could destroy my father, one that could destroy everything we ever pretended to be. Around midday, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. We need to talk. It's about your father. My heart stopped. The number wasn't familiar, but the writing style was. Careful, polite, almost formal. I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came quickly. The woman in the photo. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the words, unsure if I was imagining them. Then another message appeared. I think you deserve the truth. He won't give it to you. I can. My hands shook as I typed. Why now? Another pause. Then, because he told me years ago that you forgot. He said the memory faded. He said you'd never ask. I stayed quiet because I believed him. But you found the photo, and that changes everything. My stomach dropped. She knew about me. She knew I remembered. She knew exactly what had been taken from me. Before I could respond, she sent one more message. Meet me, please. I'll explain everything. I stared at the screen, torn between terror and curiosity. My dad had spent years convincing me the moment I saw never happened. Now the woman from that moment wanted to talk. I typed, where? She replied instantly. The cafe on Willow Street. Today, 2 o'clock, I looked at the clock. My father walked back into the kitchen at that exact moment. Where are you going? He asked. I slid my phone into my pocket. Out. Out where? Just out. His eyes narrowed. Are you meeting someone? I grabbed my jacket. You don't get to ask that. He stepped in front of the door. You're meeting her, aren't you? The panic in his eyes told me everything. He knew. He knew she would break the last piece of his story apart. I'm leaving, I said. He blocked the door with his arm. If you walk out that door, you'll regret it. I met his eyes, really met them. Without fear, for the first time in my life. No, I said. If I stay, I'll regret it. I pushed past him and stepped outside, the cold air hitting my face like freedom. And as I walked down the street toward the cafe on Willow, I realized something profound. The truth wasn't something I found. It was something I was finally ready to face. I walked to the cafe feeling like the ground beneath me wasn't completely solid. Like any step could send me falling through some version of my life I never agreed to live. Every memory of that day from my childhood, the one they told me didn't happen, kept replaying in fragments. A hand slipping away too fast. A whispered argument behind a closed door. My father's voice, sharp and panicked, telling me I must have misunderstood what I saw. And me, young and trusting, desperately trying to believe him because believing him meant the world still made sense. By the time I reached the cafe, my chest was tight. The bell above the door chimed softly as I stepped inside. It smelled like roasted coffee beans and old wood, familiar in a way that didn't match the tension in my stomach. I scanned the room, and then I saw her. She sat in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a paper cup, staring out the window like she was afraid to look at me directly. When she finally did, her eyes widened, slightly as if seeing me unlocked a memory she didn't know she still held. I approached slowly. She gestured to the seat across from her. You look just like him, she said softly as I sat down. Her voice was careful, practiced, like she had rehearsed every word before I arrived. I didn't respond. I didn't want small talk or vague observations. I wanted the truth, the real truth. She folded her hands, bracing herself. I wasn't sure you'd come. Why did you ask me to? I asked. She took a deep breath. Because you deserve answers, and because your father won't give them to you. The bitterness in her tone wasn't angry, it was tired, worn down, familiar. How do you know what he will or won't tell me? I asked. Because he didn't tell me the truth either, she said. Not then, not now. Silence settled between us before she continued. Your father and I, we were close. Closer than we should have been. I clenched my jaw but didn't interrupt. It wasn't what people assume, she said quickly. Not an affair, not something sordid. It was emotional, complicated. One of those rare human connections you don't expect but can't ignore. We met at work. Things were difficult in his marriage. Things were difficult in my life too. He said he felt seen for the first time in years. I believed him. She stared down at her coffee. Maybe I shouldn't have. I leaned back in my seat. The photo? I said. Why did you keep it? She looked up, her jaw tightening. Because he asked me to delete it, she said. And something about the way he begged. It didn't feel like guilt. It felt like fear. Fear. That word echoed inside me. Fear of what? I asked. She hesitated. I could see her measuring the consequences in her mind, weighing truth against damage. Fear of your mother, she said finally. Fear of hurting her. Fear of losing his family. Fear of what people would think. Your father has always cared more about perception than reality. A bitter laugh slipped out of me before I could stop it. Yeah, I said quietly. I know, she sighed. He told me you saw us that day. I wanted to explain. I wanted to talk to you myself. But he insisted it would confuse you, that you'd misinterpret things. He said he'd handle it. I swallowed hard. Handle it, I repeated. He told me I imagined the whole thing. He made me feel crazy for remembering. Her face collapsed with guilt. I'm sorry, she whispered. Truly, I didn't know he said that to you. If I had known, she trailed off, shaking her head. I thought he was protecting you. I didn't realize he was protecting himself. I stared at the table, the truth layering itself in my mind like sediment settling after a storm. Why reach out now? I finally asked. After all these years, she hesitated, then leaned in. Because he showed up at my house last night, my heart jolted. What? He looked terrified, she said. He kept saying the past was coming back. That everything he worked for would fall apart if the truth got out. He begged me to get rid of anything I kept. Photos, messages, anything. But I haven't had that picture in years. I deleted it a long time ago. My breath caught. So how did it end up on our hard drive? She frowned. Your mother. The world felt like it tilted beneath me again. My mom? She nodded. Your mother found the photo years ago. Your father didn't know she had it. She and I spoke once. Briefly. She asked me to delete my copy, and I did, but she kept hers. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. Why would she keep it? The woman's voice softened. Because she didn't trust him. Because she needed proof, just in case. Because she didn't want to be blindsided again. A long silence stretched between us. You kept a secret for him, I said slowly, and she kept one for herself. She nodded. Everyone was protecting themselves. Meanwhile, you were left to question your own memory. I pressed my hands against my temples, feeling a dull ache form behind my eyes. He always made me feel like I misunderstood everything, I said. Like I saw the world wrong. You didn't, she said gently. You saw the truth before any of us wanted to. I exhaled shakily. What was he so afraid of last night? Why come to you? She looked toward the window, her voice lowering. Because he thought you'd show the photo to your mother, and he knew what that would mean. A divorce? I asked. More than that, she said. Your mother knows things. Things he never told you. The words hit me like ice water. What things? She hesitated again, her expression tightening. That's not my story to tell. But you need to talk to her. A deep, unsettling realization began to form in my chest. How long have they been lying to me? I asked. Since that day, she shook her head. Longer. She placed her hand over mine, a gesture so unexpected I didn't pull away. Your dad isn't a bad man, she said. But he's a man who built his entire life on the fear of losing what he loves. People like that bury the truth because they think the truth will bury them. I stared at her, part of me wanting to believe that explanation and another part wanting to tear it apart. You came here to help me, I said. But you're also protecting him. Her eyes softened. "I'm protecting all of you," she said. "Because once a family truth cracks open, it never closes the same way again." I leaned back, heart pounding. "So what am I supposed to do now?" She looked at me with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "Go home," she said. "Talk to your mother. She's been waiting for this conversation longer than you know." My throat tightened, and my dad. She shook her head slowly. "He's already unraveling. What comes next depends on how he chooses to face what he's been running from." I stood up, shaky, uncertain, but clearer than before. "Thank you," I said, "for telling me the parts you could." She gave me a sad smile. "I hope someday you understand the whole picture, not just the captured moment." As I walked out of the cafe, the cold air hit me again, but this time it felt sharp, in a different way, not as freedom, but as a warning. Because now I had two truths, the one my dad hid, and the one my mom kept. And the closer I got to home, the more I felt it, the sense that my family was already standing on a fault line, and I was the one who had finally stepped hard enough to make it crack. By the time I reached home, the weight in my chest felt almost physical, like I was carrying every word she had told me on my shoulders. I hesitated at the front door, hand poised above the handle, wondering how a single photo, one frozen moment, could hold enough power to unravel an entire family. Inside, the house was silent. Not peaceful silent, but tense silent. The kind that seeps into the walls and makes you question whether anyone is breathing at all. My mother was in the living room, sitting on the couch with her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She didn't turn her head when I entered, but I could tell she knew I was there. The stillness around her felt rehearsed, like she had been preparing herself for this moment long before I even walked out the door. My father wasn't in sight. That was the first thing I noticed. He wasn't pacing, he wasn't yelling. He wasn't trying to spin the story into something more manageable. He was simply gone. My mother spoke without looking at me. "You met her." It wasn't a question. I swallowed hard. "Yes." She nodded slowly, still staring straight ahead. "Did she tell you?" "Some things," I said cautiously. "Not everything." My mother's fingers tightened, knuckles whitening. "Sit down," she said quietly. I obeyed. Not because she sounded commanding, but because she sounded tired in a way I had never heard before. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. I waited. Eventually she spoke, her voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. "Your father and I went through a rough period," she said. "Before you were old enough to understand. We weren't connecting, we weren't communicating. I felt invisible." She paused, breathing shakily. "When I found out about her, it wasn't because he told me, it was because I saw the picture." My heart dropped. "So you kept it?" She closed her eyes, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "I kept it because I wasn't ready to leave. And I wasn't ready to forgive him either. It became proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that he crossed a line." It hit me then my entire childhood had been shaped by truths my parents carried alone. Burdens they hid, proof they buried. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Why did you both make me feel like I imagined it?" She opened her eyes and looked at me for the first time since I walked in. The pain in her gaze was raw, almost unbearable. "Because you were a child," she said, "and I didn't want you to see him differently. I didn't want you to grow up with resentment in your heart. I wanted you to have a father you could trust." I shook my head slowly. "But you let him lie to me. You let him convince me I was remembering wrong." She exhaled sharply, the guilt settling once again on her shoulders. "Yes, and that is something I will regret for the rest of my life." Her honesty hit me harder than her silence ever could. I wanted to be angry. Part of me was, but beneath the anger was a deeper ache for the family. I thought I had. The truth, I thought I knew. "He said you weren't strong enough to know," I said bitterly. My mother let out a soft, humorless laugh. "He always underestimates people when it's convenient for him. He's afraid," I said. "He thinks this will destroy everything." She looked away, eyes drifting to a framed family photo on the wall. "It already destroyed something," she whispered. "It just didn't fall apart in the way he feared." "Do you still love him?" I asked before I could stop myself. The question hung in the air, delicate and dangerous. My mother took a long, trembling breath. "Love isn't the problem," she said. "Trust is." We sat in silence again, both of us staring in different directions, both of us absorbing everything that had been hidden, everything that had been revealed. Finally she asked, "Do you still have the photo?" I hesitated. "Yes," she nodded, almost to herself, as if confirming a truth she already suspected. "Good," she whispered. "Don't delete it." The words startled me. "Why not?" Because sometimes, she said softly, the truth needs to exist even if no one is ready to face it. Before I could respond, the front door opened. My father stepped inside. His face was pale, his eyes red, his shoulders slumped. He froze when he saw us both sitting there talking united, sharing something he wasn't part of. What did she tell you? He asked immediately. His voice cracked around the words. My mother didn't answer. She just stared at him. Look filled, not with anger, but with the exhaustion of someone carrying a burden too long. I stood slowly. She told me enough, I said. Fear flashed through his expression. Enough to what? Enough to understand why you lied, I said. Enough to know what you were afraid of. He took a step toward me. I wasn't afraid of you, he said. I was afraid of losing everything. My mother finally spoke. You lost my trust the moment you lied. He closed his eyes like her words were a blow. I was trying to protect you, he whispered. My mother shook her head. No, you were trying to protect yourself. The silence that followed felt like the aftermath of an earthquake, stillness settling over shattered pieces that would never fit the same way again. After several seconds, he looked at me, his voice barely audible. What are you going to do with the photo? The truth was, Ice didn't know. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want destruction. What I wanted was honesty. And honesty was the one thing none of us had shared until now. I'm not showing it to anyone, I said quietly. Relief washed over his face so quickly, it almost hurt to watch. But, I continued, I'm not pretending it never happened. He swallowed hard. I can live with that. My mother rose from the couch, standing beside me. Can you? She asked. He looked between us at the two people his lie had bound together in ways he never expected. I'll try, he said. Trying isn't enough, she replied. This time, you tell the truth. All of it. He sank into a chair like he no longer had the strength to hold himself up. I will, he said, just. Not tonight. For the first time, I saw him not as the man who controlled the narrative, but as a man terrified of confronting the version of himself he had hidden for years. And maybe that was a start. As night fell, the three of us sat in the living room together, but not whole, bound not by the lie anymore, but by the truth finally breaking open. And in that fragile silence, I realized something important. The photo wasn't the thing that shattered us. The lie was, and now that the lie was gone, all we had left was the truth and whatever came next. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet clicks and creaks of a house that suddenly felt older than it had that morning. It was strange how truth could age a place, make it feel heavier in its foundations. Every wall, every door, every picture frame seems to hold a different meaning now. Like our home had been rearranged without any of us moving a single piece of furniture. I kept thinking about the photo, not the image itself, but the ripple effect it created, the way it tore open memories, forced conversations, reshaped relationships that had been stuck in the same pattern for years. One picture, one moment, one undeniable truth. Around midnight, I heard soft footsteps in the hallway, then a gentle knock on my door. Can I come in? My father asked, his voice low, almost unfamiliar in its vulnerability. I hesitated. Yeah. He stepped inside slowly, as if entering the room of someone he no longer knew how to approach. He didn't sit on the bed, didn't move too close. He hovered in the doorway like he wasn't sure he had the right to step farther. I owe you the truth, he said quietly. All of it. I pushed myself up to sit. Okay? He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling shakily. Your mother and I were falling apart back then, he began. Not because of anything dramatic, we just drifted. Life got heavy, responsibilities piled up, and we stopped seeing each other. I wasn't a good husband, she wasn't a good wife, we were barely holding things together. I listened, waiting. When I met her, the woman from the photoet wasn't planned, he said. It wasn't physical, it wasn't romantic, but it was something I hadn't felt in a long time. Someone listened to me, someone cared about what I was going through. It made me feel alive again. He looked up at me, guilt etched into every line of his face. I never touched her. I never crossed that line. But emotionally, I crossed plenty. I nodded slowly. So, the photo. She grabbed my hand, he said softly. It was a moment, a single second. But your mother saw it differently. And honestly, I can't blame her. You should have told me, I said. You should have told all of us. He swallowed hard. I didn't want you to lose respect for me. I didn't want you to think I was the kind of man who cheats, who lies. I gave him a hard look. But you are the kind of man who lies. He flinched, but didn't argue. Yes, he said quietly. I am. He sat down finally, but only halfway, like he still wasn't sure he deserved a place in the conversation. Your mother kept the photo because she didn't know what to do with it. She didn't want to confront me. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to stay. So she kept it as a reminder of what we almost lost. I felt something sharp twist inside me. She let me believe I imagined it. She thought forgetting was easier, he said. She didn't want to force you into adult problems. I shook my head, but the lie became the problem. He nodded slowly. I see that now. And I'm sorry, truly. His apology was quiet, unpolished, stripped of the usual defensiveness he used to protect himself. For the first time, it felt real. What happens now? I asked. He exhaled, his shoulders sagging. I don't know, but I'm willing to accept whatever comes. If your mother wants to separate, I won't stop her. If she wants counseling, I'll go. If you want distance, I'll give you space. I just don't want the lie to be the last thing you remember about me. I stared at him, trying to reconcile the man in front of me with the man I had grown up fearing. Fearing not physically, but emotionally, mentally. The fear of never being believed, never being heard. For the first time in years, he wasn't looming over me. He wasn't twisting the narrative. He wasn't making excuses. He was just a flawed man trying to rebuild a bridge he had burned long ago. I don't hate you, I said finally. Relief flickered across his face, but only briefly. But I don't fully trust you either. I know, he whispered. And I'll earn that back, if you let me. I nodded, not promising, but not rejecting it either. He stood up to leave, then paused at the door. One more thing, he said. Your mother didn't keep the photo to hurt me. She kept it to protect herself. And you, I frowned. Protect me from what? He hesitated, a shadow passing through his expression. From growing up thinking your father was perfect, he said finally. Because I never was. After he left, I lay back down, but sleep still didn't come. My mind kept circling the same thought over and over. If the photo was the beginning of the truth, then what else had I been living in the dark about? The next morning, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. My mother was in the kitchen, the same place she sat, the day everything began unraveling. She looked up when I entered, offering a tired smile. He told you, she said. Some of it? I replied. She nodded, stirring her coffee. He means well, she said. But he hides behind good intentions. Always has. What about you? I asked. Why did you lie? She sighed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Because I thought peace was more important than truth. But it wasn't, I said. No, she whispered. It wasn't. I sat across from her. What happens to the family now? She looked at the steam rising from her cup. We rebuild, she said. Or we break. I don't know yet. I took a deep breath, and me, where do I fit into all this? She reached for my hand, her touch warm but trembling. You fit wherever you want to be, she said. You're not responsible for fixing what we broke. Her words hit me like a wave. For the first time, I felt free from their lies, their choices, their shadows. But freedom comes with weight too. I knew the truth now, and knowing it meant deciding what to do next. Should I forgive? Should I distance myself? Should I expose everything? I didn't have the answers yet. Maybe I wouldn't for a long time, but I did know this. The picture didn't destroy us. The truth didn't destroy us. The lie did. And now that the lie was gone, we had a chance, painful, messy, fragile, to become something real, something honest, something new. And for the first time in my life, that possibility felt like hope. Over the next few days, the house felt different, lighter in some corners, heavier in others, as if the truth had rearranged the air itself. Conversations became cautious, words measured, movements deliberate. We were all trying to navigate a new landscape without a map, learning how to exist in a version of our family none of us fully recognized yet. My father tried, in small and clumsy ways, to be present. He cooked breakfast one morning, though he burned half of it. He offered to fix things around the house that had been broken for months: wobbly chairs, loose cabinet handles, a flickering hallway light. He was trying to repair the physical things he could touch because the emotional ones were still too fragile, too fractured to handle. My mother, meanwhile, kept drifting in and out of rooms like she was searching for something she'd lost long ago. Not the truth, but herself. Sometimes she seemed angry, sometimes relieved, sometimes exhausted beyond measure. And I didn't know what I felt. There were moments when I wanted to scream, moments when I wanted to forgive, moments when I just wanted to disappear into a version of my life untouched by secrets. But none of those versions existed. All I could do was move forward, step by uncertain step, hoping the ground wouldn't crumble beneath me again. On the fourth morning, something unexpected happened. My father knocked on my door, not softly, not tentatively, but with the kind of knock that meant he had rehearsed what he was about to say. When I opened the door, he held a small box in his hands, old wooden, worn at the edges. "I want you to see something," he said. I followed him to the living room where my mother was already sitting. She looked confused, maybe nervous. My father set the box on the coffee table and opened it. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Some neatly folded, some wrinkled with age. All addressed in handwriting I recognized immediately. My mother's. He took a deep breath. "We never told you this," he said. "But before you were born, your mother and I separated for a while." My heart jolted. I glanced at my mother, who gave a small, sad nod. "It was only a few months," she said. "But we weren't sure we'd make it." My father reached into the box and pulled out a letter, placing it gently in front of me. "These are the conversations we had during that time," he said. "We wrote instead of spoke. It was easier to tell the truth that way." I stared at the box. Those letters were pieces of a past I never knew existed. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "Because," my father said, "you grew up thinking we were solid, stable, unshakable. We weren't. We were human, flawed. We made mistakes long before the one you saw." He paused, rubbing the back of his neck. "We hid our struggles to protect you. But, in doing so, we created a version of ourselves we could never live up to." My mother nodded. "We wanted you to feel safe," she said. "We didn't realize we were also teaching you to doubt your own instincts." A lump formed in my throat, so everything I remembered, everything I questioned, was real, my father said. "You weren't wrong. You never were." The validation hit me so hard I felt dizzy. Years of gaslighting, intentional or not, years of questioning my memories, years of wondering if I was the problem. All of it cracked open, releasing something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time. Relief. And then something else. Anger, for how long it had taken. My father pulled another letter from the box and handed it to me. "Read this one." I opened it carefully. It was dated almost a decade before the photo incident. In it, my father wrote about fear of losing the family, fear of not being enough, fear of repeating mistakes he grew up witnessing. "I was raised in a house full of secrets," he said quietly as I read. "I learned to hide things instead of face them. I didn't want that for you, but I didn't know another way to live." My mother touched my arm gently. "We kept things from you because we thought it was love," she said. "But love isn't secrecy. Love is truth." I closed the letter, trying to breathe through the storm of emotion rising inside me. "So what next?" I asked. "Where do we go from here?" My father exhaled a long breath, releasing years of tension. "We rebuild," he said softly, "but this time, with honesty." My mother nodded. "No more pretending," she added. "If we're going to stay a family, it has to be a real one." I looked at them, two flawed people who had made flawed choices, but who were finally, painfully, choosing truth. For the first time, I saw them not as the perfect parents they tried to be, or the flawed ones they actually were, but as human beings hurting, healing, trying. And something inside me shifted. I wasn't ready to forgive everything. I wasn't ready to forget anything, but I was ready for something new, understanding. A week later, my father came to me again, this time with a nervous smile. "Your mother and I are starting counseling," he said. "Real counseling, not the kind where we pretend everything's fine." My mother walked in behind him, her eyes brighter than they had been in days. "And we'd like you to join us for one session," she said. "Not because you're responsible for fixing us, but because your voice matters too." My chest tightened. For so long, my voice had been the quiet one, the doubted one, the one overshadowed by the narratives they chose for me. Now they wanted to hear it. Really hear it? I nodded. "Okay." They both exhaled with visible relief. In therapy, everything came out: the lies, the half-truths, the assumptions, the pain none of us had words for. Until then, it wasn't easy. It wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. And honesty, I learned, rebuilds slowly, quietly, deeply. One evening, after a particularly heavy session, my father approached me with tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he said. I frowned. "For what?" "For sending that photo," he said. "I know it hurt. I know it broke things. But it also forced me to face something I'd been running from for years." I stared at him, surprised. He wiped his eyes and added, "You didn't destroy this family. You saved it." I didn't respond right away. I wasn't sure I believed him. But I felt something loosen in my chest, something that no longer needed to be held so tightly. Months later, our family wasn't perfect, not even close, but we were honest. We were trying, and I had learned something important along the way. Sometimes the truth doesn't break you, sometimes it breaks you open. And what grows from that if you let it is something real, something stronger, something worth rebuilding. As for the photo, I never deleted it. Not because I wanted to hold power over anyone, but because it became something else entirely, proof that my memory was real, that my instincts were valid, that my voice deserved to be heard. And that, in the end, was all I ever really needed.